So, nochmal wunderschönen guten Nachmittag, guten Morgen aus Vancouver. Mein Name ist Kai Hoffmann, ich bin der CEO der Soar Financial Group. Ich freue mich, dass Sie Zeit genommen haben, sich hier einzuwählen. Thanks for dialing in. My name is Kai Hoffmann. I'm the CEO of the Soar Financial Group. Good morning and good afternoon from Vancouver. We're doing a webinar today with Chakana Copper. I'm joined by David Kelley. He's the president and CEO of the company. And real quick, Tarik, Dede, you can see him on the screen as well. He's our Director of Content and Roadshows here at Soar Financial. I'm happy for him to join us here. He'll be moderating this session. He'll be hosting it as well. David will give us a quick introduction to the company. We're going to do a 15-20 minute presentation, go through all the details, talk about the news flow, and then Tarik will also lead the Q&A session. And I'm going to switch back to German for a second. Freut mich auch, dass Tarik hier mit dabei ist. Tarik wird das Ganze moderieren und auch hosten. Wir werden am Ende der Präsentation von David die ungefähr 20 Minuten dauern wird, auch eine kleine Fragerunde starten. Nutzen Sie dafür bitte die Chat oder die Questions Function, um Ihre Fragen dort zu stellen. Please use the chat function or questions function to ask your questions during this presentation. We'll get to those at the end of the presentation, and Tarik will ask those in English, so feel free to ask them in German. David, it's all up to you now. Really appreciate you joining us this morning, and greetings to Denver. Please start. You can start sharing the screen with your presentation now, and we'll go ahead.
There we go. Thank you, Kai. Appreciate it. I'm just going to try to switch to sharing my screen now.
It's great. We can see it. So just pull up the presentation. We're good to go.
Okay. Sorry, I thought, yeah, there we go. You able to see that?
Just your screen right now. You might have to share change the screen there. See your desktop background with a beautiful BRECCIA rock, with a beautiful brecciated pyritic core.
On the correct screen here, so
Pardon me, David. I think you would have had to have opened up the presentation first.
Let me just close that. Okay, you're not seeing the presentation yet, right? It's on the wrong screen. I'm not sure how to switch it to. Oh, here we go. Is that it?
There we go. That's it.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Thanks, Kai and Tarik, for setting this up. We're really excited to go through an update of where we're at today. I'll give the presentation just as a way of being complete, so that everyone, if you're not familiar with the story, you'll get a basic understanding, and then I'll give you an update of what we're doing right now. We have just recommenced a drilling program. It's a 15,000 meter drill program in a new part of the property where we have not been able to drill. We had a long delay with the permit. We've got that behind us now. The drill rig's turning, and our geologists are really, really excited at the targets that we're testing and have in front of us to test. Chakana Copper was a company that was created to focus on copper exploration in the Andes of Peru. We chose Peru because it's a great part of the world with a very, very high endowment in multiple different deposit types. The geologic potential is enormous in the Andean part of Peru. We also like Peru from the standpoint that the government really supports mining. Mining is part of the culture in Peru, and they have a long history of successful foreign investment coming into Peru, making discoveries, and ultimately mines being built. So that's the kind of thing that you look for from a country perspective. We focused our strategy at Chakana Copper was to pick an asset that we knew a lot about technically, that we thought was underappreciated or undervalued, and this fit the Soledad project fit the bill perfectly for us. It's a project that I had prior knowledge of. I had gone to site at Soledad in 2011, and I've always liked the project, and it was fortuitous for us to be able to get access to this property when we started putting the company together. We've tripled the size of the company, or sorry, tripled the size of the property since we started, and that's another really important aspect of that. The geologic opportunity was much larger than the land position that we were initially focusing on from a commercial agreement standpoint. So that's a big part of the upside potential too, is to look at how big the footprint is of the geologic opportunity and how our mineral rights have expanded to see that. I'll move through the, sorry, I just need to get, here we go. So, you know, really just a very, very high level summary. You know, the four critical features for me in terms of, you know, what's important from an investment is, you know, is who you're investing in. You know, our management team, we have very, very strong technical expertise on our management team. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but obviously a critical part of the company. The strong capital structure and shareholding. We have Gold Fields as a cornerstone investor in Chakana Copper. They own about just under 17%. They invested $8 million at 51 cents at a time when we were trading at 40 cents. They paid a premium. They were quite happy to do so, and they've been a great partner for us. They're very supportive of our strategy to go after these high-grade breccia pipes, which potentially would be mined by underground mining methods, and they're very supportive of that. But they also see the big upside potential in the district, and that's why they wanted to come in and put an investment in. It's important to note that they do not have a future right on the asset or a first right of refusal or anything like that. They were very respectful of the fact that we needed to keep that very clean and open, so that we can maximize value of the asset down the road if we do divest the asset. And that's worked out really well for us. You know, the other key aspect is where you're located. I mentioned we're in Peru. Not only being in Peru, in my mind, is a good country to be in, but within Peru, we're in the Ancash province, and it's a mining province. It has the largest mine in Peru is 65 kilometers to the east at Antamina. And the Piarina mine, another world-class mine in my view, is just 35 kilometers to the north. So, you know, we're in a very, very active part of Peru where mining has been part of the culture for a long time. And with that comes lots of additional benefits, like the infrastructure. There's grid power, there's plentiful water in this region for mine development. The road access is second to none. And it's also in an area where mining has been part of the community culture for a long time. The communities have benefited from mining in terms of jobs and social investment programs and that type of thing. So we're happy to be in part of Peru where mining is really a focus. And then it really comes down to the asset and what is the quality of the asset. For us, we wanted to focus on high grade, and the benefits of high grade are generally it's a deposit that has a smaller footprint. And there's obvious benefits from an environmental standpoint there, a social standpoint, in terms of how big your operation might be, the footprint of that operation. But also having high grade means that you can weather the metal cycles, you can make money in the downturns, and you can absolutely kill it in the up cycles like we have now in terms of gold and silver price. We think the future for copper is very, very bright. It has great fundamentals, and I'll talk about that in a bit. But, you know, to have a deposit that gives you exposure to copper, gold, and silver at significant levels, we think is something that should be really attractive to investors. So I'll go through the story now. We'll certainly talk about our Q3 drill program that we're just started and will be operating for the next several months. And we'll talk about what some of that upside potential is that I keep mentioning. Just a quick slide on our share structure. You can see there the pie chart shows the breakout of the different shareholder groups. Gold Fields right at just below 17%. Management and insiders own similar percentage. We have an institutional shareholding at about 25%. and our retail shareholding is growing. Right now it sits at about 26%. You can see our chart there. The low there represents the onset of COVID-19. It was devastating to everyone, obviously, but we've recovered from that. Peru is, I'll talk about COVID-19 in a bit. Peru has done everything they can, I think, to try to control it, but even the best efforts have not worked out well, and Peru is suffering from COVID-19 in a big way right now, and we're certainly trying to do everything we can to help our local communities and get things happening and get jobs going again and get investment going back into the country. Our shareholding, the other statistics are listed there. Our total outstanding shares, our share price is right at about 67 to 70% in that kind of range over the last few days. Our market cap's at about 62, and we currently still have about 6.3. We're just below 6.5. We got our IGV refund from the government of Peru, and that's helped top up our treasury at a great time when we're starting to spend more with the drilling program. Our management, I talked a little bit about our management, and we're fortunate to have a really deep technical team on the board. Three of our five board members are geologists. Doug Kerwin is our chairman. Doug's a world-renowned geologist, multiple discoveries in his history. And Doug is an expert in these tourmaline breccia pipes that we're drilling out at Soledad. And that really gave us an advantage in terms of being able to look at the project from a different perspective than those that had been there before. There had been previous exploration on the property, including previous drilling, and that just gave us more confidence in knowing that we could come into this and bring some new ideas and have some success with that. We also have John Black on the board, and John Black is a very successful economic geologist in his own right. John is a similar background to me in that 20 plus years working with major mining companies around the world, and then John ventured into the junior part of the industry, and we had a very successful run with Antares and a big giant porphyry discovery in southern Peru that was divested to First Quantum for about $650 million. So we have the technical expertise, and John brings to us a commercial expertise of navigating that divestment process and trying to maximize the value of the company for shareholder benefit. So it's a pleasure for me to work alongside these two gentlemen, and I think we have a very, very powerful team to execute the strategy of this company. I mentioned Peru. You can see where we're located there. We're just south of the Piarina mine and west of the Antamina mine in the Ancash province. But you can see the very prominent, notable mines in Peru. Yanacocha, all the way down to the giant copper deposits in southern Peru. The Andes of Peru are very, very well endowed, and we're in a particularly well mineralized segment of the Andean arc. We're in the Cordillera Negra. We're at a reasonable elevation. We're at 3,800 to 4,600 meters. Multiple mines in Peru and Chile operate in that elevation range. It's certainly possible to develop robust mines at that elevation without any problem. So Peru for us is a great place to be. It's the second largest copper producer in the world. It's also second largest silver producer. It's the largest gold producer in Latin America, and it's really impressive to think that to know that Peru is the fifth largest investment destination for mining, compared, falling behind Canada, Australia, Chile, and the U.S. So I mean, it holds a very prestigious place in global investment in mining, and that's certainly you see that benefit in Peru. Mining is a very important part of Peru's economy, and that was one of the reasons why during the COVID-19 kind of restart strategy that the Peruvian government developed, that they featured mining as one of the key catalysts for restarting the industry. And they started with letting the large mines go back into production, medium and smaller tier mines going back into production. Exploration came along, and that's really what's enabled us to get restarted and to start our drill program that we're operating now. So it's a challenge, no doubt, but it's something that we've been able to operate so far, and we'll continue moving forward in that. Copper is, we started off focused on copper. Obviously, we have a lot of copper expertise in our company, and Soledad we knew had very high grades of copper in these breccia pipes. Copper has got a great fundamental story developing. It's been developing for a number of years, and you can see the chart on the upper right. The demand is going up and the supply is going down. And the reason the supply is going down is because a lot of mines are going out of production. The grade profile of a lot of mines is decreasing and has been over time, and that will continue. The number of new start projects is not enough to fill the increasing demand gap, and you create this situation where there is a long-term supply gap for copper. And that's even before you start talking about green energy systems, electric vehicle fleet deployment. That's going to just increase the demand for copper even more. So the runway for copper is long and very attractive, I think, from an investment standpoint. And that was important for us to pick a focus where we had really good fundamentals. Oftentimes with copper you get gold, and you might get silver as well. And it turns out that this deposit that we're drilling is very enriched in gold and silver on top of that. So you get exposure to all three metals. And all the drilling we've done to date in terms of the mineralized breccias, our valuation looks at sits at about 60% of the value sits in gold and silver, and about 40% sits in copper, even though we have some very attractive copper grades. So I think that speaks volumes about the potential for this project. Now, the situation in Peru from a COVID-19 standpoint, the government did what they thought was the best move at the time, and they shut down very early, and it was a very strong shutdown. It was mandatory quarantine for people, and that happened early March 15th, and they declared a state of emergency, and that kept getting extended for months and months and months on end. And initially, it was having a good effect, but the problem became that people had to leave their homes for work. They had to leave their homes for buying basic staples. They had to go into the markets, and in these markets is where a lot of the infection began to spread. So today Peru is one of the worst countries affected by COVID-19. It's particularly in the larger cities where high dense housing is the norm. It's had a really devastating effect. So the government had to make a call as to whether or not to keep trying to keep things closed down or whether or not to reopen, and they decided to reopen a lot of industries, particularly the ones that could have a strong impact on the economy, and mining was one of those. So we're in this stage where mining has been restarted. Exploration companies have been largely given the go-ahead to restart, and we work closely with our team and with our contractors and the local communities we're involved in, and put together a plan where we could reopen our program or restart our program using very strict protocols. We're in the process of installing a standalone camp that will give us greater isolation to make sure that we can control We monitor the employee health on a daily basis, and we're very careful with the interaction with the community. So far we've been able to execute our program without issue, but obviously it's a day-to-day thing, and our team is working very hard to ensure that we keep our employees, contractors, and the local communities as healthy as we possibly can. So just moving on to talk about the asset, the map on the right shows our land position. The black outline is the total land position. The circles represent the tourmaline breccia pipes that we've identified to date. We continue to find more breccia pipes, especially to the south. The green ones are the ones that we've drilled to date with at least some level of drilling. We're working on Paloma East right now. I'm not sure if you can see my mouse, but I'll try to highlight that here. We're drilling this breccia pipe now with some scout drilling. We're going to move over to Paloma West soon, and after scout drilling there, we'll move down to HUANCARAMA and start scout drilling there. And really, our strategy is take this 15,000 meters, start off with scout drilling a number of targets, identify the breccia pipes that have the greatest potential to turn into a resource, and then we'll expend the rest of those meters, most likely with a second drill rig, drilling the infill drilling on additional breccia pipes to go with the 30,000 meters we've already completed. And the goal of all of this drilling is to put an initial resource, a maiden resource out on the property at the end of March in 2021. And that would just really be a starting point for us. You know, that's going to be 6 breccia pipes in the top, 350 meters perhaps from surface. We know that the mineralization continues at depth. We've never seen the bottom of a breccia pipe yet, so an obvious way of increasing the resource in the future is to simply go underground and continue exploration drilling at depth. We also have multiple targets additional on top of that to test, again, starting with surface drilling, eventually moving to underground drilling if the mineralization supports that. And if you look at the total number of targets we have on the property, there's over 92 targets defined on the property today. Some of these are really obvious outcropping breccia pipes. Others are very strongly altered areas that we only see proximal to breccia pipes, so they represent the potential for blind breccia pipes at depth. And we have geochemical anomalies, geophysical anomalies, other alteration anomalies that together make up that impressive list of 92 targets. The grades that we see, and I'll talk about that a little bit, but we do have some very impressive grades. All the mineralization to date in breccia pipe 1, if you put it together, comes out at just under 3% copper equivalent, or about 4.4 grams gold. So, some very, very impressive grades, and especially when you consider the fact that it's open at depth. When you think about upside potential, it's the number of pipes, the fact that we have multiple pipes. We've even found a blind pipe in our drilling. So if we found one blind pipe, the chances of finding additional blind pipes is obviously there. Vertical depth, we've drilled mineralization down to 770 vertical meters from depth, or from surface to depth, and it's still open. So we've never seen, as I mentioned, we've never seen the bottom. The breccia pipes are getting bigger at depth. I've got a good diagram that'll show you that. They coalesce at, potentially will coalesce at depth to be much bigger breccia bodies. And then there's obviously an intrusion at depth driving these breccia pipes. We don't know anything about that yet, but certainly the potential there for a large mineralized intrusion exists. And that's something that eventually our exploration will lead us to, because we're learning with each one of these breccia pipes as we go. We learn a great deal. Just a quick view looking to the north, showing the lay of the land. We're on a hill that goes from a valley bottom at about 3,800 meters up to the top at 4,600 meters, and that's an ideal landscape for developing a mine. That means you can drive tunnels into the mountainside to intersect these breccia pipes, and from that point you can mine up or you can mine down. The breccia pipes are very closely spaced, so you might only be 100 meters away from the next adjoining breccia pipe. So the proximity of breccia pipes really works in your favor. You'll see on the right side is an operating mine. That's Lincuna's lead zinc silver mine, the Hercules mine. We've been underground there. It's an operating mine that's supported by grid power. There's plentiful water in the area. The road infrastructure and network in this part of Peru is really outstanding. So we're right in the heart of an active mining district, and that bodes really well for a project to be expedited and fast-tracked to new production. I mentioned the grades. This is just a snapshot of several drill holes from each of the first 4 mineralized, strongly mineralized breccia pipes that we've drilled. You can see they're grouped by different breccia pipes because each breccia pipe has a slightly different grade profile. You can see the gold grades are commonly in the 1 to 3 or 4 gram range. Silver is often in the 30 to 60 gram range, but we do have some very high grades in some of the pipes, especially breccia pipe 6 and breccia pipe 7. We've hit up to 5 kilograms of silver in our drilling. We've hit over 42 grams of gold in our drilling, and we've hit up to 13% copper in our drilling. So, each of these metals brings very significant value to the table. And that's why I wanted to emphasize the fact that, an investor in Chakana is getting exposure not only to great copper potential down the road, but also to precious metals in the near term as well. This is a diagram showing the shape of the breccia pipes, and I won't dwell on this too much. I know this gets quite technical, but really the point of this diagram on the left is to show that when you have a surface outcropping breccia pipe that's exposed by erosion, you might be adjacent to a blind breccia pipe. And we found this blind breccia pipe through our drilling. It did not come to surface, and if one breccia pipe is found fortuitously through drilling, you got to think that that other additional breccia pipes like this are going to be found as we continue exploration. The blue level plans shown here show that in just 100 meters of vertical depth, you double the size of the area of the breccia pipe. And again, I mentioned that the breccia pipes are getting bigger at depth. And this is proof that we proved this now in multiple times in our drilling of other breccia pipes. So, this is a feature of these breccia pipes. And if your breccia pipes are getting bigger at depth, it means that your volume is getting bigger, and it means that you can continue to add tons as you go deeper. The rocks on the right show some very impressive mineralization. We get 2 different types of mineralization. We get breccia mineralization where the sulfide sits as a cement to the breccia clasts themselves. And we also get this very impressive style of mineralization where it completely replaces the rock. And obviously, this style of mineralization, both styles of mineralization can give you very, very high grades, as you can see listed there. This diagram, just a simplified diagram of the geology. Really, the point here is we're just touching the surface on this project. We're drilling in the generally in the 350, 400 meter range, but we have put down some deeper drill holes on occasion, and we see mineralization continuing at depth. So, again, the greater the vertical extent these breccia pipes are, if they're getting bigger at depth, they're adding value to potential resources in the future. Just a glimpse of some of the geophysics we've run. Our geophysics, again, gives us this indication that these pipes are vertically extensive features. We don't know how deep yet, but we'll eventually find out. Other types of geophysics works really well in cases. This is electromagnetics. This diagram on the right shows the anomaly associated with breccia 7. We've only put 4 drill holes in breccia 7 yet, just to see if it was mineralized. It is mineralized, and obviously it needs a lot more drilling, and that's part of our infill drilling program in the future. A few snapshots of what it looks like in the field. The breccia pipes come to surface. Sometimes they're a bulge. You can see a drill rig at breccia 1 just for scale. The lower diagram is breccia 5. Very, very prominent features. They're really obvious. Again, a drill rig for scale, and what the rocks look like at surface. Very oxidized, very strong gold response that you see at surface. Just more rock pictures again, just to indicate that you know, the mineralization is very impressive here. The lower two diagrams are really important because we focus 90% of our drilling on the breccia pipes themselves, but occasionally we run a hole out into the wall rock, and every now and then we hit some very impressive mineralization outside of the breccia pipes, a part of the project where we're not even focusing, but we've actually seen massive sulfides in structures adjacent to the breccia pipes that have very impressive grades. You know, the core box on the right, the two boxes together, you know, that's 5.5 meters of 4.6 grams gold, 5% copper, and 275 grams of silver. So really impressive mineral outside the breccia.
David, this is really impressive, the numbers. Just to put it in the big picture, if you have today a gold mine in average worldwide has a gold of 1 gram per ton, and copper is under 1%. So you have an average of 2.9 copper, about 52 drill holes, and 4.9 gram per ton gold. That's really impressive, but we're running out of time, so it would be good just to have just 2 minutes, and then we have a lot of questions we should answer.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Tarik. I get kind of excited when I'm talking about the technical aspects of the project. I'll tell you where we're at right now. We're drilling Paloma East. Paloma East is a breccia pipe that comes to surface. It's relatively small at surface. It's about 25 meters. But as we've started drilling, we've seen that the footprint of that breccia pipe is much bigger. Soon you'll hear about us moving the drill rig from Paloma East over to Paloma West. Again, all of these samples at surface are indicating very strong endowment. In gold, you mentioned 1 gram gold being a common mine grade. You know, we're seeing multiple grams of gold at surface on these targets. One of our most exciting targets is the HUANCARAMA breccia complex. It's about 200 meters wide, and you know, this has not even been touched with our drilling yet. So after Paloma West, we'll move the drill rig over here. This is an area that's big enough that potentially you could even open pit the top part of these breccia pipes. We think that these breccia pipes coalesce into one larger pipe at depth. So the tonnage potential here is really exceptional. I won't touch too much on mining, but we've had a number of mining engineers look at this, and they're very excited about the optionality and the potential to mine multiple breccia pipes at the same time. It lends itself to some traditional mining techniques that are well established in Peru and used in a number of different mining projects. So I'll summarize there, Tarik. You know, strong management team. You get exposure to precious metals as well as copper, which has a great future ahead of it. We're in a great location. Our project is proven to be you know, a really excellent opportunity in getting exposure to high-grade mineralization in a part of Peru where the infrastructure is second to none. We've just started drilling, so there's going to be lots of news flow on drill results coming out, and then a huge catalyst for us in the future is to get that maiden resource out at the end of first quarter in 2021 with that mineral resource. Thank you, Tarik.
Okay, thank you, David, for the presentation. Ja, vielen Dank, David. I will speak a little German and then English again. Most of our participants are from Germany. Die meisten hier sind jetzt aus Deutschland. Vielleicht ganz kurz eine technische Frage vorab. Wir hatten die Frage, wie man genau Breccia Pipes übersetzen kann. Breccia heißt eigentlich zerbrochener Stein oder Fels. Dafür gibt es eigentlich kein deutsches Wort. Aber vielleicht kann uns David kurz sagen, wie groß, wie man sich das vorstellen kann, wenn er da 6 Breccia Pipes zum Beispiel hat, wie viel Kupfer da drin ist, ja, um einfach mal eine Vorstellung davon zu haben, was das bedeutet. So, David, first, maybe an easy question for you as a geologist, but what is a breccia pipe? If you compare it, how much copper could be in it, or isn't it? What's your, so just our participants have a picture about what is one breccia pipe, and you have a lot on your property.
Yeah, you know, each breccia pipe, you know, we really don't. It's hard to answer that question, Tarik. Our exploration, you know, we see zones where we've seen complete replacement of the breccia rock with copper, with chalcopyrite. And chalcopyrite is a mineral that has, 34% copper in it. So, we've hit up to 13% copper in our drilling. So it really comes down to how big the breccia pipe is, the volume of the breccia pipe, what the vertical extent of it, and then what the overall grade is. The potential for this project is, certainly 1 million tons of contained copper if you put multiple breccia pipes together at depth. But it could even be bigger than that if we get into a mineralized intrusion at depth. I mean, that's why Goldfields is here, right? They see the potential for this to be 1 million ton contained tons of copper or even bigger. In terms of gold endowment, each breccia pipe could host up to 250,000 ounces potentially, depending on the grade and the vertical extent. The potential for millions of ounces of gold in a project like this is certainly there. It will depend on, obviously a lot more exploration for us to get, to answer that question. But the upside potential is enormous because we don't know how deep they are. We don't know how many breccia pipes are mineralized. We don't know how deep, and a mineralized intrusion sits beneath this. So it's really hard to answer this, but it's a world-class opportunity, I can tell you that, and that's why Goldfields is there.
Maybe you can just give us what is a reasonable size? So how much copper do you need to have a mine here on that project?
Well, I think what's really important is, the overall grade. Our 10 million tons in Peru, the reason we picked 10 million tons as a target in the first place was because if you have 10 million tons of the kind of grades we're talking about, that we're demonstrating in our drilling, that's going to be a mine in Peru. I mean, you think about an underground mine operating at 2,500 tons per day, 10 million tons. That's a nice resource. And if you're averaging 2% copper equivalent or 3% copper equivalent with a nice mixture of gold, silver, and copper, that's enough to build a very nice, successful, high margin mine in Peru. And because it's high grade and because it's a small footprint, you could develop a mine like this for, $200 to $400 million capital investment. Those are the kind of numbers that the mining engineers kind of kick around. And the nice thing about this project too is it has the potential to start small and increase over time, right? So you can scale this up as your resources get bigger at depth, that you want to bring in more breccia pipes into the mining inventory, or mine multiple levels in a particular breccia pipe. There's so many different options of scalability here that you can start small, regain your capital investment through mining, and then continue to reinvest that and build a bigger in the future.
Can you tell us what's how much copper you have in compared to gold and silver?
Well, and this is just based on drilling, right? So taking our mineralized breccia intercepts, our ratio right now is about 40% of the value sits in copper and about 60% sits in gold and silver.
Okay, thank you. Ja, okay. Englisch brauche ich nochmal wiederholen, aber vielleicht auf Deutsch. Breccia Pipes so zu übersetzen und so ein bisschen zu erklären, ist schwierig, aber David hat gesagt, aktuell, wenn man sieht, die 52 Bohrlöcher, die man bisher niedergebracht hat, da kommt man auf sicher 1 Million Tonnen für Kupfer und dann kommt es auf den Grad an. Und das Besondere an diesem Projekt ist, der Gold-Silber-Anteil ist relativ hoch. Er sprach es gerade am Ende noch an. 40% des Wertes, des Values, liegt im Kupfer und 60% bei Gold-Silber. Das ist natürlich sehr interessant. Und auch um das zu meinen, für Peru als zweitgrößter Kupferproduzent der Welt, da brauchst du 10 Millionen Tonnen, sagt David. Also das ist eine Masse, wo man sagt, okay, da baut man eine Mine. Aber, und jetzt kommt's, durch den hohen Gold-Silber-Anteil hast du natürlich die Möglichkeit, oder das heißt natürlich, du hast die Möglichkeit zu sagen, wir fangen klein an und mit einer kleinen Anlage und bauen dann eine größere, Mid-Size, Small, Mid-Size und dann eine große. Je nachdem, wie viel man dann weiter exploriert und wie auch das Timetable ist. Aber diese Attraktivität, also eine relativ große Menge an Kupfer, Gold und Silber mit einem hohen Precious Metal Anteil, Edelmetallanteil, erklärt auch im Prinzip, warum warum Goldfields vor 16 Monaten, glaube ich, eingestiegen ist. Und die haben damals 51 Cent pro Aktie bezahlt. Und da stand die Aktie noch bei 40 Cent. Okay, another question, just technical. In the first slide, we see that there are a lot of institutional investors, and the question was, are there any big names under these institutional investors?
Yeah, so the institutional investors that came in early in the formation of the company, US Global participated in 2 rounds of financing. They hold a very significant share position. Sprott Asset Management, Cisco Royalties, and some smaller institutional funds out of in Toronto, and Macquarie Bank was one of the original, or they came in kind of midway through the financing. We've raised $30 million to date since we started. So we've had some very strong names involved in setting up the financing. Rick Rule has came in recently and has started a position in Chakana. So we do have some very
I think this was in June, yeah?
I'm sorry,
when
Tarik?
Rick Rule came in. This was in June when Rick Rule came in?
Rick Rule was a recent investor, yes. Ja.
Ja, okay. Vielleicht ganz kurz ein paar Namen unter den institutionellen Investoren, neben natürlich den großen Einzelaktionär Goldfields. Sprott Asset Management, US Global, Cisco Royalties sind drin, aber auch die Macquarie Bank, die ganz relativ lange dabei war, die große australische Bank, die im Rohstoffbereich ja einer der größten Aktivposten ist. Und im Juni kam Rick Rule dazu, ein recht prominenter Name in Kanada. Erklärt auch ein wenig den Aktienkurs. Der Aktienkurs ist nämlich angesprungen schon im Juni, als Rick Rule einstieg. Und wir waren lange bei 20 Cent, weil auch die Permit, also die Genehmigung in Peru ausstand. Der Aktienkurs hat dann schon vorher angezogen. Und genau, mit Rick Rule, und dann kam noch die Genehmigung zum Drillen. Ich frage jetzt einfach mal, wie viel kann er denn jetzt drillen? Er hat 15.000 Bohrmeter im Programm, er hat 6 Millionen auf dem Konto, 6,3 Millionen, er hat also genug finanzielle Ressourcen. Und wir schauen mal kurz, wir fragen da nochmal nach. The starting or the ongoing drill program, David, you have 50,000 meters, you have 6.3 million in the bank. What are the costs in Peru for drilling? And another question, your new permission, how huge is it? So how much you can do with that? And yeah, just.
Yeah, so our direct drilling costs are $113 per meter, okay, and that's for HQ drill core. It's a large diameter drill core, which is better for sampling. Our drill program will cost about 2.6 million, all up, with everything that we're doing. So we have plenty of capital to complete the drill program and to get us through that first resource estimate. So we sit very strong financially with our treasury right now to execute the program. We don't have to go to the market to finance to finish the program. We've got the capital to do that right now.
Okay, this is interesting. So we will have a lot of news. Das heißt, wir werden jetzt auch in den nächsten Wochen und Monaten Nachrichten haben. How are the labs now working in Peru regarding COVID-19? Are there any? So are waiting a long time for your results?
No, we don't think so. The laboratory is telling us that 2 to 3 weeks turnaround time. That's what they're expecting. I guess anything could change depending on the severity of the COVID-19, how it plays out. But they too have instigated very strict COVID-19 work protocols, and they're ready to receive samples. Are open for business, and they're very, very motivated to get restarted as well. So I really don't expect any kind of a significant delay with turnaround time.
Okay, thank you. Ja, David sagt gerade, also 2 bis 3 Wochen dauert das, wenn die Bohrkerne ins Labor geschickt wurden, bis man die Ergebnisse hat. Momentan, das ist ganz normal. Es gibt keine Verzögerungen oder keine relevanten durch Covid-19. Vielleicht für die auch ein bisschen später dazu kommen sind. David hat am Anfang erzählt, dass Peru ist ja eins der am stärksten betroffenen Länder und von den Flächenstaaten sogar das mit den meisten Toten. infolge der Pandemie und hatte auch einen starken Lockdown. Das Problem in diesem Land ist, relativ viele Menschen sind arm und haben keinen Kühlschrank zu Hause. Das heißt, sie müssen relativ oft einkaufen. Und David sagte auch gestern schon in einem Call mit einem Investor, einige wollten dann halt lieber nicht verhungern, statt krank zu werden. Und das war natürlich ein großes Problem in diesem Land. Aber bisher wird es zumindest, da es jetzt auch Öffnung gibt und auch gedrillt und gearbeitet werden kann, momentan nicht mehr das Problem. Und ich habe auch heute erst, kam die Meldung über Bloomberg, dass in Peru hat jetzt auch als Kupferproduzent fast das vor Corona-Niveau erreicht. Das heißt, die Minen arbeiten wieder, also auch die Produzierenden, nicht nur die Explorer. Und das sind natürlich gute Nachrichten für das arg gebeutelte Land, was kein Vergleich hat, also zu Europa oder Deutschland. Da geht es uns hier richtig gut. Wir haben das ganz gut hingekriegt. Vielleicht noch, wir kriegen jetzt relativ viele News durch das Bohrprogramm natürlich. Und wir hoffen weiter auf gute Ergebnisse. Also wenn man 2,9% Kupfer und 4,9 Gramm je Tonne Gold hat im Schnitt der ersten 52 Löcher, wenn das wiederholt werden kann oder sogar mehr, dann sind das natürlich tolle Resultate und es würde auch erklären, warum die Investoren gerade sehr positiv sind. Kupferpreis haben viele, glaube ich, gesehen. Wir sind jetzt auf einem 18-Monats-Hoch, also weit über den Kursen von Mitte 2018. Kupfer ist wieder in, die Nachfrage ist gut. Das Angebot, so lala, gibt es noch ein paar Probleme, aber das läuft. Und wir haben da ja auch aus China und auch aus der US-Industrie viele gute Daten bekommen, die Haupttreiber sind in den letzten Tagen. Und insofern sind wir da sehr optimistisch, dass es hoffentlich auch so weitergeht. Vielleicht noch ganz kurz, also die Main Resource, die erste Ressource soll es dann im Frühjahr geben. We'll see the main resource in spring. Yeah, that's the plan, David? The resource?
Yeah, main resource is, our deadline for that is March 2021. Yeah.
Genau, im März 21 ist die Deadline. Da möchte David, also wenn alles gut läuft, die erste Ressource präsentieren und man will dann natürlich auch so viel zeigen, dass das Interesse auch von institutioneller Seite und auch von anderen Strategen, also anderen Bergbauunternehmen, groß genug ist. Okay, ich glaube, wir haben jetzt alle Fragen beantwortet. Falls Sie noch Fragen haben, wie heißt es so schön? Don't hesitate to ask me or David or Kai.
Tarik,
Also schreiben Sie mir, schreiben Sie Kai. Ja? Yeah.
Sorry, Derek, I just wanted to remind people that, we can drill right through the rainy season. We've done it before. We drilled 14 months straight. So there's no problem with drilling through the rainy season. And we also, once we get to the point where we have infield drilling to do, the plan is to bring a second drill rig in so that we can expedite the completion of the drilling and stay on track to get that resource done.
Ja, vielleicht noch ein Hinweis von David. Also die Regenzeit ist kein Problem. Die können durchgehend arbeiten. Es wird also keine Unterbrechung bei den Bohrungen geben, bei den Infill-Arbeiten. Und es wird ein zweites Bohrgerät aufs Grill, also auf die Liegenschaft gebracht, also ein zweites Drill Rig. Und dadurch kann man natürlich schneller arbeiten. Er hatte die Kosten schon beziffert. Das sind knapp über 3,5 Millionen $. Das heißt, man kann das aus der aktuellen Kassenlage ohne weiteres finanzieren und dann freuen wir uns natürlich auf eine Ressource im Frühjahr, also im März 2021. Ja, und wir haben jetzt fast 50 Minuten gemacht. Vielen Dank Ihnen. Thank you very much, David. We will close it. We answered any questions. Thank you for the presentation. If you have any question, don't hesitate to ask me, Kai or David. Also schreiben Sie uns, wenn Sie Fragen haben. Sie können es konsultieren und auch wenn ein Bedarf an Einzelgesprächen da sein sollte, dann können wir das natürlich gerne arrangieren. Dann bleibt mir nur noch Ihnen alles Gute zu wünschen. Ich hoffe, dass wir uns bald wiedersehen, auch hier im Webinar. Und wünsche Ihnen erstmal alles Gute und bedanke mich dafür, dass Sie uns die Zeit gegeben haben. Okay, thank you, David. Let's say goodbye and
thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye bye.